Hello Internet, it's Skorkowski, and today we're going to discuss the classic AD&D adventure Against the Cult of the Reptile God. Written by Douglas Niles and published in 1982 by TSR, the module is intended for novice player characters leveled 1 through 3. Featuring a fold-out map and several more internal maps, the adventure itself comes to 28 pages. While possible to complete in 2 sessions, I'd advise Dungeon Masters to expect it to take at least 3. While no longer in physical print, the PDF versions of the original scenario are available in DriveThruRPG. There's also a 5th edition conversion that's over on Dungeon Masters Guild for anyone that wants to play it with the newest edition. I have not gone through the 5e conversion, so I really can't say anything as far as how well of a job that they did. The scenario offers a good mystery, a conspiracy, great combat, a very sandboxy setup, and a very large cast of NPC characters. However, as much as I like this scenario, it does have several issues that Dungeon Masters need to be aware of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer my criticisms and my suggestions as a game master who has successfully run this adventure.
And I'm Jack the NPC. I'm going to give this one to you from a player's side of things.
But before we go any further, I must warn you that there will be spoilers. So for any players out there, you should stop now, but send your Dungeon Master this way to see if Against the Cult of the Reptile God will be a good fit for your group. Okay, Dungeon Masters, let's get started. The setup is that the village of Orlane is being taken over by a sinister cult. It's led by an evil spirit Naga that's charming all the residents to worship it as a god, and then it's killing anyone that it can't convert.
I love how you had to specify that that's an evil Naga.
The heroes are not residents of Orlane, but they're going to hear several rumors about it prior to the adventure. Some of these rumors are true, some of them are not. The module assumes that these rumors are going to be enough of a motivation to send the PCs dashing off to Orlane.
Yeah, so I heard that the well water in Orlane has been poisoned with some powerful drugs, and that an evil sorcerer has moved into the woods nearby. Sucks for them. Wait, is this supposed to be the adventure?
However, what I suggest is that you give the player characters a reason or a goal, something that can't be easily disproven after they arrive, such as poisoned water wells or anything like that. Maybe have them be hired by someone who to investigate a missing family member. Or have that missing person be somebody that the player characters know. If this isn't going to be your first adventure with these characters, maybe you could have a non-player character from a previous adventure be the missing person, and that can make it much more personal for the players and the player characters.
Holy crap, guys. I just heard that Nine-Fingered Pete, a buddy that helped us kill those goblins last time, anyway, he visited Orlane to go see his in-laws, and now both he and his family are totally missing. And get this, I heard that somebody poisoned the well water there, and that there's an evil sorcerer that's now lurking around in the forest. We gotta find out what happened. Hold on, Nine-Fingered Pete. We're coming to save you.
The journey to Orlane is said to be fairly uneventful, but I suggest that you active it up a little bit. The first part of the entire scenario is just a mystery and investigation without that much action, and players, especially new players, which this module was designed for, are going to want a little bit of action. So I say give them some encounter along the road to get that blood pumping early on. Now, while you could make this a monster, such as goblins or something like that, my suggestion is that they encounter a small band of cultists that are hoping to maybe kidnap travelers along the road. Maybe even you could give them some sort of symbol or something that can identify that these are cultists and not just your standard run-of-the-mill highway bandits. One method could be giving them reptile-themed weapons, such as the serpent dagger from the Coone movie. These daggers could have been made by the village blacksmith, who is also a cultist. This idea would not only give your player characters a good taste of action at the beginning, but also might give them their first actual lead in the investigation to come. If nothing else, the combat is going to give them some experience points, because, as I'm going to discuss later on, while the first half of this module is absolutely perfect for, first level characters, the second half of the module I would only recommend for at least 3rd to 4th level characters. Eventually the PCs are going to arrive in the village of Orlane. The module provides a good map with 27 area locations marked on it. While the map is single color, a little Google searching will quickly yield several different color versions that fans have made over the years. Since these don't have location markers, they can be great to use as player handouts or just set it in the middle of the board. There's a large cast of characters here in the village, some good, some evil, and some that the player characters are definitely going to need to meet. The PCs could go anywhere they want in any particular order that they want. The village investigation is extremely sandboxy, so game masters will need to be extremely familiar with the town and the characters and be ready to do a lot of improvisation while they're here. Investigative games have the potential of becoming extremely boring for players, especially new players who are more interested in combat, so the key to running a good investigation game is the mood. So GMs, give them that sense of paranoia that something just isn't right in the village of Orlane. Be proficient enough with the module's contents that you have enough cheat sheets and notes ready that you can run this module very quickly without having to resort to picking up the book and checking it every few seconds just to keep the game flowing smooth. If you can make Orlane feel that it is a real place, populated by colorful and interesting characters, the players are going to stay involved. While there, they're going to need to stay at one of the two inns. Maps are provided for both the Golden Grain Inn and the Inn of the Slumbering Serpent. One of them is good, the other is run by evil cultists.
Well, since I got the choice and everything, and I already know that this module is called Against the Cult of the Reptile God, I'm going to go ahead and take a pass and not stay at the Slumbering Serpent Inn.
Ooh, wrong answer. The Golden Grain Inn is run by cultists, and the rooms that they're going to rent the PCs have secret doors in them. That way the cultists can break into those rooms at night and kidnap the player characters. Now, while I love this aspect of the adventure, so much so that I have stolen it and used it in many of my own homegrown adventures, Dungeon Masters need to be aware of a few risks that kidnapping could cause. If only one or two of the player characters are captured, then they're essentially taking them out of the game altogether until they can either be rescued or in some rare chance that they're able to free themselves from whatever prison they find themselves in. While this is really great story-wise, it's also terribly boring if you're the poor player that has lost their character to a plot point in the adventure and then have to sit around and watch the rest of the players figure out what's going on and how to act. Now, if you have an NPC that's traveling with the characters and maybe accompanying them around, maybe kidnap the NPC instead. That way, all of your players can be involved in trying to figure out what's going on and hopefully save their missing friend. Or, you could just simply try to kidnap all the player characters in one night. This can lead to a good combat if they wake up in time to stop them, or in the event that they all get captured, they can all, as a group, roleplay out trying to figure out how to escape.
This pot can be a lot of fun. All the player characters' gear and items will have been confiscated when they were captured, but let them go ahead and try to break out without all the cool little toys. And then once they're out of their cell, maybe breaking out when the god is off taking a whiz in the outhouse, they're going to be trying to scramble, trying to find some sort of weapon for when they get back. And now they're using table legs as clubs and anything else that they can find. Eventually, of course, they're going to find all their gear that's been shoved into a footlocker somewhere. But maybe along the way, they're going to find some better gear to use.
Now, in the unfortunate event that you do manage to kidnap the entire party, and the entire party finds themselves unable to escape, 24 hours after their capture, they're going to be moved from the inn to the temple in town. And a few days after that, they're going to be put on a caravan and taken to the Naga's lair. The chances of the player characters who are going to be captured with all their equipment and everything taken away, being led, possibly while tied up to the Naga, the chances of them surviving that encounter are just about zero. They're either going to end up being dead or be charmed to become slaves to the Naga, neither of which is that much fun if you're a player. So, what I recommend that you do is once the PCs are taken from town, if they're going to be on this prisoner caravan, have the caravan stop at one of the farms along the way because there are cultists that are along the way. Have the PCs learn some of these farms that might have some cultists in them. Let them get that information. And then when the caravan enters the woods or enters the swamp, have it be attacked by monsters or something. And that way, during the frays, maybe spiders are coming out of the tree and they're snatching up all of these cultists and taking them up in the trees and devouring them. Somewhere in there, the PCs are going to manage to free themselves and hopefully try to escape.
It's at this point that the player characters have a few choices to make. They can either go back to town, Or they can continue on and go into the Naga's lair. At least if they went to the Naga's lair now with their full gear and equipment and they're not going up as captives, then they have a slight chance of surviving that encounter. But what you can do to encourage them to go back to town instead is that during their time that they were captured, they get to learn all sorts of plans that the cultists are making about doing some more kidnappings. Specifically, say they were going after the mayor, the ranger Alan Claiborne, or the wizard Ramney.
This information will tell the PCs that the next targets are definitely not members of this cult, and they could easily become an ally for the player characters in trying to defeat this cult. They'll also know the identities of several of the cultists in town who captured them, both at the inn and at the temple. Now, speaking of the Temple of America is the last location in town.
America? Yeah. Somebody had to say that.
The temple is for a goddess of agriculture, but the Naga has charmed and converted the clerics. I really like this setup, and hopefully the player characters are going to visit the temple prior to learning its dark secret. Maybe they can watch the locals engage in some of their normal ceremonies, or maybe the player characters, if they might worship this goddess, might join in several of the ceremonies as well. This makes the reveal later on in the adventure just so much more impactful if they were under the impression this whole time that these were good clerics. So hopefully, you can get them to meet and get to interact with these clerics and think that, oh yeah, we can definitely trust these guys. Then, once they discover the truth, they're going to have a great dungeon to explore with lots of combat. One important note about the Cellar Maze is that it does not go through. This was evidently an error, so I suggest that GMs put a through passage, here, either a visible door or a secret door, or maybe just a crawl space that they have to get on their hands and knees to pass through, but you are going to need to punch a hole in a wall somewhere if the PCs are going to make it through the maze. In Abramo's secret room, the PCs will discover Cyrilli, an unfortunate village girl that he has been keeping prisoner. Cyrilli is a valuable source for information, and the Game Master should let her give several specific details that the module doesn't mention, but they're details that you really are going to want to pass to the player characters. Specifically, have her tell the PCs that the Naga is charming people with a gaze attack. Make sure they know that it's a gaze attack. And second, have her tell the player characters that she personally witnessed that Naga shoot a fireball. This information is going to greatly help the PCs later on when the final confrontation occurs. And because they are so low level, that little bit of edge of knowledge could very easily save their lives. Now, a couple other things about the village. This investigation before the discovery of where the Reptile God's lair is should hopefully take a few weeks. The module says that it will take that long for the wizard Romney to learn to trust them. This module is designed that they have to befriend him before the final fight. So what I recommend here is that you have the NPCs in the town move around, have them interacting and going to different locations. They're not just going to sit in their home or wherever the module says they are and just wait for the PCs to arrive. Such as the mayor isn't just going to sit in his house all day. He's going to go to the Inn of the Slumbering Serpent and talk to people and get to know people, and the PCs are going to be able to wander through town and get to meet a lot of people and get to know them. Make the town a living place. Maybe have some small side quests pop up, such as, go kill giant rats or something like that. This will, 1, give them a little bit of fight just to keep some excitement going. 2, give them some much needed experience points that they're definitely going to want. And 3, maybe you could use those requests as favors to gain Romney's favor. There's also a pair of elves that live in the town that are very suspicious, and a lot of people don't know what to make of them. But they're actually going to be friends of the mayor, who knows that something is wrong in town, and he summoned his friends here in order to help him out. There is a letter in the elves' home that the PCs could find in case they break in and search it. Game Masters, I suggest that you print this letter out and give it to your player characters in case they do find it. Eventually, the player characters are going to discover the location of the Reptile God's lair and are going to decide to go out there. Again, this module assumes that the player characters will have befriended Romney and that he is going to join them for this. The journey there is pretty simple. Along the way, there's several encounters that the PCs could have. Dungeon Masters can use this journey to give the PCs their final haul of experience points before they make it to the final location. If GM maybe ends the session right when they arrive at the dungeon entrance, maybe they'll have gotten enough experience points that they can get to that next level before they go inside, because the PCs are going to need all the levels that they can. Dungeon of the Reptile God is fairly straightforward. The entrance is on an artificial island in the middle of the swamp. While the module doesn't mention it, game masters might want to add some details about this island, such as maybe small chimneys that are disguised as tree stumps that are carrying all the smoke out of here, and have the top of the elaborate water pump system that's down on the bottom layer be peeking out the top. Maybe hide it behind some rocks or some shrubbery or something like that. But that way there's a chance that the PCs might notice this, and they can at least say, oh yeah, we knew about that. It's at this point that the module advises that if the wizard Romney is not with the player characters, dungeon masters should have them discover a scroll with minor globe of invulnerability and dispel magic somewhere along the way or inside the dungeon.
Which means that this module is assuming that these novice characters, presumably played by novice players, are going to guess the correct time to use these spells without it resulting in a total party kill. Yeah, that doesn't bode well.
Inside, they're going to fight cultists who are all charmed victims, every single one of them. And I think it might be fun if the PCs recognize some of them from the town, or maybe even have one of them be the person that they were sent to town to rescue, of course, if you decided to use that as your adventure hook.
Nine-Fingered Pete, holy crap, we have been looking everywhere for you. We came to Elaine in order to rescue you, and hey, buddy, what you doing with that sword?
The realization that these are all charmed victims can be a bit of a moral dilemma for your player characters, leading the player characters to maybe come up with something other than killing them outright. Maybe go through some, trying to capture them or knock them out. There are several random monster encounters as well. Some of them seem odd, such as a carrion crawlers hanging around in a well-populated dungeon, but there's also the giant weasels.
Yeah, aren't weasels and snakes like mortal enemies or something? Or is that mongoose? Is that mongoose? I don't know. Either way, they're not reptiles, and reptiles are kind of this adventure's theme.
Yeah, the giant weasel room seems really out of place, but not as much as the harpy. This thing feels a little bit shoehorned in, like maybe they just really wanted to have a harpy in the adventure. Game masters might like it, and if you do, yeah, go ahead and keep it. But the other option would be maybe changing the aviary to holding some sort of flying reptile instead. But the first actual problem with the dungeon encounters is the coffer corpse that's down on the second level. That thing requires magic weapons in order to hit it, and low-level party members might not have very many magic weapons. I checked through the module, and there are only 3 magic weapons that the PCs could have found before they find the coffer corpse down inside the dungeon. Several friendly NPCs are going to have magic weapons as well, but unless those NPCs just offer them over to the player characters before they head down to the dungeon, the PCs are not going to have them with them.
Now, to make things worse, shortly after the PCs face off against this coffer corpse, they're going to encounter a wight, which also requires magic to hit it, but it can also level drain. Once again, this module is intended for first level characters, and they threw a freaking wight in here. That means that for a first level character, that level drain is a death sentence. And yeah, some people are going to say, well, can't the cleric just turn the undead? Yeah, sure. But if you remember, in first edition, a cleric must be 3rd level to even get a 5% chance of turning that coffer corpse, who turns like a wraith, by the way, and at 3rd level, that same cleric has a 20% chance of turning the wight. So sure, there's a chance. Good luck.
Eventually, the PCs are going to face the dreaded Naga, Explictica Defilis. I think I'm pronouncing that right. She's going to open the combat by launching a fireball at the party. That's her opening move. Now, the module assumes that Romney will be with the party, and if he is, he's going to cast his minor globe of invulnerability, which protects the PCs from the fireball's damage. This is all meant to be a flashy effect only, just some fun special effects and a near miss and an exciting moment. However, if Romney is not with them, there is no guaranteed way that the player characters are going to use this scroll of minor invulnerability that you should have given them in the meantime. Hence, this is the reason why I'm suggesting that you have her give them the note that, yeah, this thing casts fireballs. My suggestion is also that if Romney isn't with the party at this point, then change the fireball to a different spell entirely. It only exists in the game for a flashy effect, and if the wizard is not present to be there to cast the minor globe of invulnerability, there is no need to wipe out the party unnecessarily. As the PCs fight the Naga, Romney's just going to sit hanging out in the back. He's going to launch a lightning bolt at one point, and he's going to cast some light spells to counteract her darkness spells, but mostly he's just sitting around waiting to cast a spell magic in case too many of the player characters get charmed. Other than that, he really does nothing.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Are you telling me that Ramney has had a dispel magic this entire time that could have cured this Naga's charm? We just killed a dozen cultists just to get here, and he could have saved them. Nine-Fingered Pete didn't have to die. Heck, Ramney could have just been sitting back in his front porch in Orlane, drinking iced tea and casting dispel magics to cure all the afflicted people there. No one had to die. Are we sure that Ramney is a good guy? Because he is not sounding like one.
The problem here is that if Romney is not here, then there is no one that's going to help them out fighting this obviously too powerful of an opponent for the PC's level. And if Romney is here, that means now that the players are sitting around the table watching the NPC wizard duke it out with the NPC villain, and neither of those is that much fun if you're a player.
Yeah, players aren't that keen on just sitting around the table watching the DM play with himself for the big climax.
Overall, I really do like Against the Cult of the Reptile Gods. The investigation in the first half is simply wonderful. I love that it's perfect for low-level characters, at least in the opening half. However, the second half, where the PCs enter the dungeon, is simply too difficult for low-level characters without having to walk them through it. Hence, having the reason of a Gandalf NPC following them around to save the day whenever they're over the heads, that just isn't that much fun for me. Again, this module was intended for first-level characters. That's confirmed when after the final fight, the module says, first-level characters who survive all the adventures in this module will probably become second level. Probably. To counteract this, Dungeon Masters, I strongly suggest that you add some more encounters and minor quests along the way in the first section to not only draw out the time that the PCs are spending in this time, to draw out the amount of time they can roleplay with everybody, but give them some much-needed items, magic items hopefully, and give them some levels prior to the big finale of the game. Hopefully they'll be able to survive the finale and be able to do it without requiring an NPC wizard to come along and do all the heavy lifting for them.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. If you want to see some more of our other reviews and other videos, just hit that subscribe button. Until next time, gamers, you have a great day. You know, I am still pissed that Ramney let me kill Pete like that. I mean, that jerk could have totally saved him.